Okay, mic's on, and if I can get a motion to come back in.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Back in session. Okay, if we can have Barry, if you want to come back forward, and Joe.
So, sorry about that. This may not all get in there, but I redid the math after, Mr. Houchin pointed out our math is wrong. What we understand to be the problem here is that Joe had a surveyor go out, and the surveyor has looked at it and helped him sit this building on there. And the surveyor told him that the lot was wider and deeper than what is described in the deed. So, out of an abundance of caution, we're going to assume that the 70 by 160 is the dimensions we're working with. And in order to get him a little wiggle room left or right, we're asking to amend the application to provide for a 20-foot variance on the left side of the property, a 25-foot variance on the right side of the property, and a 45-foot variance with regard to the front setback. So this will put the building with a footprint of 80 by 42 within the area requested for the variance. And Amy updated that on what the proposal is for the purposes of the record. This is the updated with the correct numbers. There's the other change is that when we were doing math before, is the actual required setbacks are on the sides are 35, not 25. So it had said 25. So that's been corrected, and then we've adjusted the numbers that relate to the variance requests on the left and right side.
I think, and I have not asked one of the other board members, but it is. Is it working?
We're not hearing you very well, so.
Okay. I think there may have been some concern about, and I would have the same concern about the distance between the current building that is there and the side of this building, and the distance between those buildings ultimately. And the reason is if there's a fire or something, I suppose, but for me the reason is there's a fire or something like that, you know, how do you get between the buildings and not put someone's life in jeopardy over trying to put out a fire and having ample room to move in there and do that?
Well, I would submit to you a couple things. One is that 10 feet is plenty of feet to get between the two buildings. Two is we have no control over where the building that is to our right, how close it is to their property line. And the other thing is that this building will be set back 55 feet, and I don't think that building, that one's 25, and I don't know the length of that building, but there is an open space. If you look at the aerial, there's an open space where they have parking behind their building, and ours abuts that parking area.
All right, let me be a little bit more specific then, and maybe you can go back to the pictures, or can you see this?
I can
You
see.
need to put that on the overhead.
Okay.
You know, if you want to use that, or go back to.
Yeah,
that is in the staff report.
It is.
it is in the staff report, but okay. So, on the yellow piece of paper that was put up there, there was not a road drawn in, so, but if the side yard setback on this particular drawing here is 10 feet, and I can't tell what the, by looking at this, what the side yard setback is on the adjacent building, that, okay, so, you know, if that's 10 feet, 20 feet total, I guess where I'm going with this is if the building were moved over from this drawing toward the top red line somewhat, you would have more room to, between the buildings, and that would obviously mean a larger variance, or we would be granting a larger variance on the The top side of the property line is shown in this picture here. And there is nothing, to my knowledge, I don't think, on the adjacent property next door. So in trying to correct this now, or making sure that there's ample room there, now's the time to do it, not later on when someone comes in and wants to potentially put another building on the next property. And you've got some spacing there that's consistent between properties, and therefore more room for people to move in and out of there in case there is an accident of some sort. Does that make sense?
And there's not a reason, from your perspective, that it couldn't be moved over.
Well, the reason I was wanting it more to the right side is this lot, if you're facing my lot, it falls to the back left corner.
Could you indicate on this current drawing that's up where the building that you're proposing will sit, with paying particular attention to where the front?
If that setback's 25, and then we're gonna be, what, another 30? So that would be close to the front of the building.
And the side of the building here would be where?
Not on the line, it would actually be.
But it would be closer to that property line.
Okay.
Well, I would be further away from the property line than they currently are. They're closer to the property line than I will be.
Thank you.
It's difficult to tell from this drawing, but this lot falls away as well. Because of the location. This is up on the ridge of 146, and it drops down towards,
Show us on there where it drops down.
It's gonna fall that direction.
so it drops down towards the Tri-County Ford area. This is where, it's in that triangle, and so it starts to go down the hill that way.
Board members, we also need to caution, the property in question is the one outlined in red. What's to the north and south, same with Berry. I don't know north, south, east, west here, but top and bottom. Those are not the subject properties in question. So we need to concentrate on what's outlined in red. Right now, Mike, what you said, nothing is built, I'm assuming that's not north, to the top of the red line. Nothing currently is built there. So you're questioning, can we shift everything up? What's to say a year from now, 2 years from now, something isn't built on that side, and they also ask for a variance. So we need to keep our focus on the subject property, what's outlined in red, making our decisions in line with what you're thinking, but we just can't take in consideration what's there or not there right now.
I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Can we go back to the yellow sheet on the board? I think what you guys have done side to side makes sense, because you've asked for variance that allows for the building, because there's too many times somebody has to come to us with a building and it's 6 inches over a line, and then they can't get a mortgage, they can't sell the property, those kind of things. So I appreciate what you're doing side to side. The problem is that front to back, you've also locked yourself in where you can't be a half an inch off.
That's right.
And so if the building, if you look at the 25 in the back, 80 plus 55, you're exactly within the 170. And I think what you probably might want to consider is asking for a variance that's
160.
actually, or
160.
160?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you're right. The total's up to 160, my bad. You might want to consider asking for the same kind of variance front to back, so that you don't get yourself in trouble if the builder's off half an inch. So you could ask for a 50-foot variance from front, not 55.
He's asking for a 45 variance, isn't he?
So
Yes.
if I'm making amendments on the fly, is that what you're suggesting? We would request a 50-foot variance with regard to the front setback, please.
However, you need to reduce the size of the building. No, I'm sorry.
Now, if we go 50 instead
Yeah,
of.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Gives you
Instead of
5 foot
50.
front to back, either end of it to square it up.
Is that a problem from staff's perspective?
Is there an issue if you move the building also, you say currently you've got 25 feet of open space. 10 on the right as I'm looking at this, and 15 on the left. Move it some to the left so that you have a little bit, I mean, it's going to be a variance either way.
That's where the fall comes into play. It drops off pretty drastically on that back left corner of where the building would be.
Which means to accommodate that, you'd have to build a foundation up
Correct.
back there. But it could be done.
Could be done, just money.
Pardon?
It's just money.
A question we haven't answered that I've learned from my colleagues to ask is, what are the options if this isn't approved? And so, in other words, the property next door is for sale, there are other properties. You did purchase this property, I assume you've purchased it already?
Yes.
With the intent to build your structure here, your warehouse for your business here. But if this were not approved, what other options are available to you? Could you buy a slice of property next door, or buy a different property? There are plenty of properties for sale in the industrial parks.
The properties adjoining to the left, you know, there's 2 residential properties, very expensive. It's got a high price tag on it. Can you stand closer? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the property on the right, the business there, it's, these guys rent it. It's basically, they store and house concert equipment.
Okay.
So it's pretty much just for their loading and unloading concert, equipment and such. Being residential, it's I-2 to the left, but it's 2 residences with multiple, it's like a farm. So I'm kind of stuck.
And
So while it's possible, it would be expensive, is what you're saying?
Yes,
And when you bought this property, there was a structure on it.
yes.
What was the condition of that structure?
It was in very bad shape. I paid to have it demoed because it was more of a hazard, and there were people coming in there at nights, and so I finally just got rid of it, so someone didn't get hurt.
And that structure also was in violation of the zoning ordinance with regard to setbacks. It was too close to the road,
Yes.
as I recall, and it was close to the property on the right.
Yes. And it was a house. It was a story-and-a-half house.
Okay. Any further questions? Mike, Rob, further questions? Good? Thank you, guys. Okay, seeing nobody else in the audience, nobody's here to speak in favor or opposition. Any other questions, board members? To anybody in the audience? Okay, I'll close the floor. Open it up, general discussion.
So I just want to make one point. I want to preface by saying I don't really have I can't think of any particular objections to this application on my part, but my point would be that I understand, Larry, your comments regarding what could be considered and what we're really looking at this, but I don't necessarily completely agree with those, and that we do take other things into consideration. The overriding factor, we are required to say if this is in character with the area and so forth. So there are things we specifically look at. Safety is one of those, and while safety is not necessarily an issue here, it could be. Listening to the testimony of staff regarding what this area was, and having grown up in this community, I understand that. And I've seen it grow. Most of the businesses that are in that area are involved somehow in building homes or electrical, plumbing, window companies and so forth. And so they use those as warehouses and workshops, and so that's consistent. This building, I think, is consistent with the character of the area. But the main concern is that all those buildings that over the years weren't affected by zoning because they predated in one way or another, you can't really go back and tell them you can't do what you're doing, but we have to look forward from here and say, what are the hazards? What are the safety hazards? Just having a railroad next door is a huge safety hazard. It's not necessarily one that can't be mitigated, and it is, but, so I take all that into consideration. But I just want to share that I think those are important things, which was the relevance of my question, at least to me, with what went on next door. That was answered. It's just another warehouse for an entertainment business. That's, doesn't present any particular issues to me, but the main point was made by the attorney, was this building is set back far enough to where it really doesn't present a narrow walkway between those two buildings, so that mitigates it as well.
I think the line of questioning that we went through, I think one of the things that I'd like to have as a potential condition, if we were to approve, would be that nothing would be stored on, again, it's because it's not squared north, south, east, west, but if your back's to the rail, nothing would be stored on the right side of the building. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Exterior, you mean?
Yeah,
The exterior.
outside.
Just as a condition of safety as brought up. Also, listed in our staff packet was potential conditions of approval, and point number 3 was shall submit a landscape plan for staff review, and then a site plan. I would also like to say that we would submit a plan a little better than the one written on the yellow notepad before any for approval by staff as well. Called a site plan.
Rob, I'm sorry, are you also considering the landscape plan? Is that, which was never
That
brought
was-
up?
That was one of the things I was bringing up. It was listed as a potential condition. I don't know if that's important to the board or not, but it was,
In my opinion, first of all, we never talked about it with the applicant.
Right.
And I think, just taking the general character of the neighborhood and the
That's a
surrounding.
requirement for the zoning regulation. In the zoning regulations, anytime a new commercial, non-residential building is constructed, they are required to submit a site plan and a landscape plan. So that's in our regulations. And at the time,
Submit a landscape plan.
yes.
okay, so whether it's in our conditions or not, it doesn't matter. So,
That's what she's
okay.
saying.
It's just to reiterate that it is required.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then when they submit their building permit, they also have to submit a letter from the fire department that has reviewed their site plan and their building plans, and the fire department signs off on that as well.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I'm willing to take a motion.
Based on the evidence given today, specifically March 17th, 2016, at the Oldham County Board of Adjustments, there was testimony from staff about how the variances go with a property this narrow. Literally, if you upheld the side yard variances, you could build a building of 0 width, because it's 70 foot wide and it requires 35. So any building would require some sort of variance. The question is about whether the variances are reasonable. They've requested variances that have gone through, so I move to approve the variance because it will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and not alter the essential character, and in fact improve the character of the general vicinity based on the property as it was before it was purchased. The variance would be specifically for a 50-foot front yard variance, a 25-foot right side yard setback variance, and a 20-foot left side yard setback variance. Conditions of approval would be the variance shall only apply to the application considered today at this hearing. A site plan must be, a final site plan with dimensions must be submitted. Nothing would be stored on what would consider the right side yard variance between the building and the property line outside of the building. And I think that's it.
Okay, I heard site plan. Did you also say landscape plan?
I did.
And I just didn't hear it.
I
Okay,
left
fine.
it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's been granted. Thank you.
You hurt my feelings, Rob.
I'm sorry?
You hurt my feelings. Saying that my yellow pad
And I was given this.
And it only took you 8 minutes.
No, they weren't in here.
Okay, let's move on to the minutes.
I didn't see them, so.
Any modifications to the minutes? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve?
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Minutes have been approved for February. Training, we had training, I believe we were all there. Steve, I believe you did not attend the entire session, or Mike? I believe it's Steve.
I was there about 15 minutes late.
Okay. So I think we need to have a motion to approve the training session, and I
We need to
believe
specify a time.
I believe we had discussed 2 hours.
Okay.
Everybody was there for the whole session, it was 2 hours, and you can,
And that's right.
And I should be done.
yeah,
We'll go in 15-minute increments, 2 hours. And Steve, to be honest, I have no idea when you came in, but,
Shortly before 7.
Have an hour, everyone else will have to.
okay. All right, so can I get a motion to approve the training, 2 hours for everybody, an hour for Steve, 2 hours everybody else?
So moved?
Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Training hours?
one other thing.
Yeah.
There is another training opportunity. Again, everybody is required to have 8 hours of training in a 2-year period. This one actually is sponsored by CACO, which is the Kentucky Association of County Officials. The closest location that they're going to provide this training is on May 19th in Frankfurt. It is specifically for planning and zoning members and Board of Adjustments members. I'm assuming they'll have a consultant come in and do the training. It's an all-day training. There is a cost associated with it, and we do have some training dollars if anybody wants to go to it. It will be 8 hours worth of training, so you can get all of your training in. I know most of you, if you just did 2, you only need 6, but again, the date would be May 19th in Frankfurt if anybody wants to go.
That's our scheduled Board of
Oh,
Adjustments.
it is. I didn't even look at that.
But unless we get no cases. If we get no cases, that would be,
Or if we move it.
We can always move the date, Board of Adjustments.
Are staff planning on going to that?
No. There's a KAPA training, CAPA, which is American Planning Association, the Kentucky chapter, and we typically go to that. It's a 2-day training. We're required to get 16 hours in 2 years, and, you know, that one's more, has breakout sessions and usually better for staff anyway.
So we may look at maybe rescheduling the May one if staff, because it's the same time as this one.
Yeah, I didn't even think
When
about
do
that.
you need
but-
to know if anybody's going to that, so that we have time to reschedule?
No, she just said the staff one's at the same time.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
So
Kappa
They-
is the same time.
Kappa is the same time.
Same week.
Well, wouldn't you know?
So then we're definitely gonna
Pretty sure.
change the date.
Well, we'll look at, we'll look at the sessions and, because it's 2 days and then Bowling Green, and we'll decide if we're gonna all go. Heaven forbid you get me to do staff reports, but, you know, we'll let you know in whether or not we need to reschedule the Board of
And
Adjustments
we'll
meeting.
scan and email this application to you and just send it back to me if you're interested in going.
I didn't realize, I completely forgot that the Kappa meeting was that same day, and sometimes it's better to go to that than this one. But there's at least, wanted to let you know there was a training opportunity.
Do we already have cases set for next month at this point?
We have 2 cases already for
Okay.
April, so we will have an April meeting.
But this is May.
I understand.
Yep. But we will have an April meeting.
Okay. Any other business? All right, can I get a
But
motion?
wait, hold on a
Whoop,
second.
whoop, whoop.
But based on the timing of when you have to post for the meetings and how long for the applications to get to the next meeting, if we decided to move the May meeting, say, up a week, because moving it back is closer to Memorial Day, okay? Which is when some people may be gone.
My gut feeling is we're better off to leave the Board of Adjustments meeting where it is. There are other training opportunities. If staff is going to go, we'll figure out how, it depends on the cases. I think it's much better to keep the board meeting exactly where it is, not reschedule it.
And if you
Agree.
move it too soon, that doesn't give staff enough time to prepare
Right.
and then do the legal notices, because it's no less than 7 to more than 21.
Yeah. And I
For legal
completely
notices,
forgot
so.
when I saw this about our board meeting.
But if we have no cases, then when would be the last time we could apply for that course?
I don't really see it. We just got this yesterday. That's why I don't know yet. I'm not seeing it on there.
Okay, well, maybe I would suggest then, when you send out the notice for the May meeting, that you could include that as an opportunity if it's practical, and,
Yeah.
because that would be a nice thing to do.
It says 7 days in advance. So
That would be plenty of time then.
So board members, just let me know if you're interested in the one-day training. We'll have to discuss, you know, whether or not, if one person goes, if we still have a quorum, do we continue to hold, you know, this meeting or postpone? So just let me know if you guys are interested in going, and we'll have to make that decision.
Is that similar to the meeting that was last year?
Not the Keiko one, the Kappa one, yes. Mike went to one in Frankfurt for Kappa, and that's when they had different sessions and speakers. This one is, I think it's going to be very similar to the one where they had a consultant come in. Actually, we saw it. It doesn't say who the speaker is, but my guess would be that that's what Keiko is going to provide. Again, this just came yesterday, so I don't even know what the sessions are. It doesn't say anything about what the training specifically is. Just keep it in mind.
Okay.
Next month, at the April meeting, we'll know more information, and we'll still have plenty of time if we don't have any cases to register if anybody wants to go.
Any other business? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.